Hey everyone, it's me, and we're ready to start our circle weaving. We want to start by adding some color to our plate, mostly all the way around the edges. That's where you're going to see the color the most. You can do this with paint, like our other class did, or you can use whatever you have around the house. Markers or crayons are fine too, and here's mine. We're going to make marks around the edge of our plate every 1 11/16 inch. You can use a regular ruler to make these marks. They don't have to be exact, but you should have 19 marks all the way around. Then take a pair of scissors and just cut into those notches. I also want to label each of the notches with a number. It doesn't really matter where you start. Just go clockwise, counting from 1 to 19. Next, we're going to take a little Scotch tape, and we're going to use the gray yarn that was in your bag. And we're going to tape the end of that gray yarn on the back of the plate right by the number 1. It's important that you use the gray yarn because I made sure to cut those pieces long enough to do this next step. You're going to go ahead and put the yarn in notch number 1, go across the front of the plate, and put the yarn in notch number 11. Then go to notch number 10 right next to that and put your yarn into that notch. You're going to flip back to the front, go all the way across, and you're going to continue to do this process going across the front and then just over one notch on the back. So I'm going from 19 to 18 in this one. And as you notice the front, the pattern of the yarn will start to look like a bicycle wheel with the yarn going across and intersecting in the middle and then just moving to the next notch on the back. Once you've got your string in notch number 2, you'll see there's no other notch to put it in. So what you need to do is stretch your string across, and you're looking for the space between 2 strings right here that's like directly across, and these 2 strings are in notches 11 and 12, so you know you're in the right spot. Take your string and go down through the space between those 2 strings and pull it back where you came from towards notch number 2. Once you pull the string all the way through, as you pull this tight, you'll see you'll be able to kind of move the center of all of the strings at once. So kind of pull that as needed and adjust it until you feel like it's pretty well centered. Next, we're going to start weaving around with the string that you already have. You're going to go all the way around maybe once or twice with this string, and then you can change to another color. The pattern for weaving is over, under, over, under, over, under. Now I like to keep this kind of loose. Don't pull it very tight the first time around because in the center it gets a little hard to tell what you're doing. So I'm leaving that inner circle a little loose for now just so I can see what I'm doing. As you weave, make sure that you continue that pattern over, under, and that you don't accidentally go over, or under, under. And as I'm going around, I'm sort of tucking in and tightening that first layer until I go bigger and do more layers. When you're ready to start a new color of yarn, take both of the colors, both the old one and the new one, and line them up so that the ends are in the same place. Then make a loop with the 2 strings together and pass the strings through the loop. Just like this, and then pull it nice and tight. Once you've tightened it, it's okay to trim the ends of that, but you want to leave a little bit of a tail So don't trim it too tight because the knot might come undone. Then you can just continue weaving like normal. Whenever you get the knot where you join the two strings, you can usually sort of tuck it in and make that tail down underneath the weaving so you really won't see it. Just make sure you just tuck that in with your fingers and then keep going. Continue weaving with your over-under pattern. Next in the video, I'm going to show you just some helpful tips that might be useful to you as you do your weaving. You may have noticed I've been weaving with just my fingers, but you can use something like a pencil or a popsicle stick and wrap your yarn around that. And then as you start weaving and going over, under, you have a tool to kind of help you get in between those strings a little more easily. This is totally up to you if you want to use this or not. And if you do, you would just sort of gradually unwind the string as you go. It's pretty likely that you'll make a mistake at some point while you're weaving. So let me show you how you can fix this. If you notice, I've got two places here where I've gone over the same string and under the same string. That means I did something wrong. So I'm going to find where I did something wrong. And right here you can see I went under, over, under, and then under a second time. So right there is where my mistake was. I did two unders in a row. So I'm pulling that out and just kind of backtracking my string so that I can continue weaving and fix that pattern where I had got it messed up. And now as you can see, I've got my pattern back to how it is and I can just keep on weaving. If you'd like to do something different with a string and try weaving with two colors twirled together, I'm going to show you a way to do that that's easier than just trying to twist them together as you go. These strings will stay together better if you untwist them and then retwist them. You'll notice that the strings normally have kind of a twist to them. So if you untwist them like I'm doing here, you can see I'm kind of straightening out the strings. And I used a pair of scissors to hold the first string down so I could keep working on the second one. Once I've sort of untwisted both of them for a few inches, I put them together and then twist them back the way that they want to go. And what will happen is those fibers that are used to being twisted, they'll stay together. Even when I let go of it, it'll stay twisted and it won't come undone. And I was just using a binder clip to kind of hold the string so I could do a little section at a time, and you could do a whole string that way. Then I can just tie that on to my other color, continue, and I've got a little spiraled together combination of colors as I go. Okay, here's another technique that's really interesting looking, but it's also optional. You see how these pink strings are kind of looping around each of my original gray strings? You can do this by going under two strings, pulling through, going back one string, and looping under the two strings again. So it's a little confusing. Even for me, this was a little difficult to do, but the effect is really different looking and kind of adds some different textures to your weaving. So again, I'm going under two strings and then kind of going backwards one string and going under two strings. So I'm going forward two, back one, forward two, back one. I wouldn't attempt this unless you're somebody who has already done weaving before and you're already kind of familiar and you really want to challenge yourself, because it does make a cool effect, but it is a little difficult. After this, I added another color and just went back to the regular over under pattern. Here's another technique that's a little more advanced. It's a lot like the last one, but in reverse. So instead of going under two strings and looping around, I'm going over two strings and then looping around. You can kind of see how that works there as I'm scrunching the layers down. So go over two strings and then go back one and loop around that string. For some reason, even though this is basically the same as what I did with the pink string, I felt this one was a little more easy to do. But you can try it if you like, and it does give another different texture that I sort of liked. You don't have to do it, it's completely optional. So again, this is a good challenge for someone with more weaving experience, but not necessary. To finish up your weaving, just keep adding layers until you're happy with how the weaving looks. I like to leave a little bit of the plate showing around the edges just so those colors can be part of the project. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of your project.